49ers Ultimate Report. This is John Jay, your 49ers reporter, opinionist, analyst, and die-hard fan. So without further ado, let's bring in our long-awaited guest. He's making this big return, and he has a lot that he wants to say to the great community. He is back. Everything's all right. Let's just bring him in. You know who he is already. What's up, man?
Yo, how's it going, John Jay? Dude, so awesome to be back on the show. Really can't wait to do this mock draft with you. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And yeah, just really can't wait to get into it. And there's a lot to talk about for sure. Crazy 49ers offseason. But yeah, stoked to be back doing some shows with you, man. It's going to be a good time.
And it's been a while. I know a lot of your followers have been telling me, like where you been at, well, where have you've gone. But I think we should start off with what has Shifty been doing? Like what have you been doing since you have not been on the 49ers Ultimate Report for a while? Is there any announcements or anything that you would like to tell the great fans who are tuning in right now?
Yeah, so I mean, I think people who kind of have followed the channel know, but because I put some announcements. But so I moved. I was in San Francisco the last time we were doing shows. I was in San Francisco, but I've since moved to Ireland. I have a lot of family here, friends here. But yeah, so over here now it's after 9 o'clock at night. But yeah, I'm really stoked to be here. And I've been, new work, places to live, that kind of thing has been taking up a lot of time. But yeah, I can't wait for football season. It's going to be here before we know it. There's so many storylines. Draft is right around the corner, so obviously a lot to talk about. But yeah, man, I'm just happy to be here. It's a good time to be back with you, dude.
Yeah, 100%. And again, one thing about John Jay, who he has never ever done, has left the state of California. I've basically been as further down to San Diego. Probably that's like the furthest I've ever been outside of the Bay Area. I've been up north to Sacramento one time in my life, but I have made a promise that one day I will be traveling, and hopefully, I have enough saved up to travel to the UK, Ireland, whatever. And that's hopefully something on my bucket list, man. And I know you, as you said, it's 9 o'clock over there. So one thing I do want to ask, because I have never been there, so I have no idea. How is it like up there? How's the weather? Like what is, different from being out here in the Bay Area to being out there in Ireland?
Ooh, that's a good question. The weather typically is not great here, but actually the last few days have been beautiful. Pretty much like the same weather that you would see in San Francisco. Now it was today, clear blue skies. I was out all day going for like walks and stuff like that, which is really fun. But generally it rains a lot here, but we've been getting some good, getting some good weather. Some other big differences are, like the food is quite different. Definitely a big like culture shift, but there's positives, from here over San Francisco. There's positives that San Francisco and the Bay Area has over Ireland. But ultimately I'm just kind of, I'm happy to be back closer to family. I definitely miss San Francisco and there's people there that I miss a lot. But definitely like happier here. And yeah, so there's for sure differences, but it's good and bad. I mean, there's pros and cons to everywhere, right? I mean, there's no perfect place, or else if there was, we'd all be there.
Yes, 100% true. So I think we caught up to all the fun stuff. Now I got to go to my chat. And I always have to say what's up to Brian Cope. One thing that you have, I don't know if you've noticed, Brian Cope has started a YouTube channel, and he brings me on the weekends. I'm honored to be on Brian Cope's channel. I've interacted with his wonderful wife. She also has a YouTube channel. So I want to say what's up, Brian Cope. And if you have not checked them out yet, check out Brian Cope's YouTube channel. He's always a kicker guy. He's always about those kickers. Yep. And he wants to say what's up to us. And then, of course, we have a new follower. I don't know if you've noticed. And Nathan Z, you have to check out Shifty. He's out there. I think I remember he says out there in the East Coast. So shout out to Nathan Z. What's up, John J? Yep. He's yeah, and everyone's talking in the chat, which is always good. We got my boy Stevo, who's a jokester. The shift I can't pronounce that. My dyslexia showing on YouTube.
The
All right.
Shiftinator.
Yep. Everyone is saying what's up in the chat. Brian says a funny joke. Kind of. Let's not put that up there. Yep, I will explore it, Brian. That's my promise. Hopefully, in the next 2 years, I'll go check out some great places. All right, Steve says I'm taking my dog out to a lake today. Nice. And of course, you remember Mr. YTC, he's the New York Giants fan, but he just recently became a 49ers fan. I'm just joking, Mr. YTC. How are you doing out there in New York? Yep. Long time no see. And we have a new
Long time
follower.
no see,
Hello.
YTC.
Yep.
Good to see you, man.
Cool. All right, so let's get some news out the way because it's been a while since we've talked. So let's talk about these quick stories, and then we'll jump into the mock draft. Let's talk a little bit about the free agency. We all know all the players of the Niners wanted to keep. They've re-signed. We let some players walk. Of course, Jimmy Garoppolo finally found a new home. But everyone talked about Hargrave, the biggest signing. So what is your thought, Shifty, this off-season, this free agency? Were you surprised that we spent big for a defensive tackle? And were you surprised that Jimmy went to the Raiders? Everything okay over there on your end, Shifty?
So my internet's kind of cutting out a little bit, so I got some of what you said.
Ooh. Looks like Shifty's having a little bit of some technical difficulties. Hopefully everything is all right. All right, I will hold on to the show for Shifty while he returns. So no worries, Shifty. I will hold on to the show. So let's see. Let me go to the comment section. Yep. I'm going to take a quick moment to go with Brian's comment. I really, really want to go travel. Like I've joked around with David. I want to go visit Utah. Recently, got to know some great 49er fans and a Seahawks fan who lives in the state of Washington. I really want to explore those places very well. And hopefully one day I'll able to save enough, maybe bump into Shifty in Ireland in the future. So I will do my best to explore many places, Bryant. All right. And guess who is back in? Shifty is back. Everything all right on your end?
Yep.
No worries, man.
Yeah, just the internet where I am right now is not great. So it cuts out a lot.
Yeah. Sorry about that, but no worries, man. It happens.
Shit.
No need to apologize.
Let's
see. All right. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the 49ers free agency, your thoughts on all of those news. Because I want to get Shifty's perspective on the 49ers news topics. Looks like Shifty is having more technical difficulties. All right. And no need to apologize, Shifty. All right, let's go to the comments. We got some comments to read. All right.
Okay. I think I maybe have it somewhat sorted out. Sorry about
no
my
worries.
Internet's just in and out.
Worries. It's okay, man. And like sometimes StreamYard even gives me a hard time. And I've had bad moments with my Wi-Fi. So it happens to all of us.
Cool.
So let's just jump in. Let's just jump into the question. Is basically 49ers free agency. What are your thoughts on all the free agency that happened this offseason for the 49ers?
Look, yeah, there's obviously a lot of changes, and I think we expected that. A lot of players on the defensive side of the ball left to go to other teams. There almost too many players to name. But I think the 49ers kind of anticipated that happening. Something that I really, really love, though, is the Javon Hargrave signing. That was massive. When free agency before it kicked off, I think I'd done a video or maybe it was like a tweet or something mentioning that, really wanted to bring him in, but then I was like, he's going to cost too much. But we managed to figure it out, which is just such a huge thing for the defense, because last year, if you think about it, um, we really struggled to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks outside of Nick Bosa. Like Bosa was fantastic, but outside of him, we really didn't get a whole lot. Of course, it didn't help that we had a lot of injuries. But all in all, to kind of like sum it up, I do think that look, I think the team is really solid. We were able to bring back a number of key players. I really like bringing in Javon Hargrave. I like Isaiah Oliver a lot. Sam Darnold is interesting to me, although I'm actually hoping that we don't have to see him play. But there's still for sure some questions surrounding the 49ers roster. But all in all, I do think that in general, it's going to be pretty difficult. Not saying that it won't happen, but I think it's going to be pretty difficult for any rookie to come in and actually start day one on this team, which shows that we have a good, talented roster. And look, I think we're going to get some key depth in the draft. Unless we trade up significantly, I'm not expecting any day one starters, but I think there will be a lot of guys who maybe 2024, 2025 from this draft that we will be relying on. But overall, pretty happy with free agency. A couple of guys I would have liked to have brought back, but I mean, that's just the nature of free agency. You can't bring everyone back.
Yeah. I want to give shout out to my boy Jersey Dolphin, a New Jerseyan citizen who loves the Dolphins. Good afternoon, John Jay. Just stopping by to say hello and looking forward to a great NFL draft for all our teams. And this guy is always positive. He's never negative, and he's always positive about his team. All right. And let's go to this comment, which is very interesting. I don't know if you heard about the rumors about Buda Baker. Like, should the 49ers get Buda Baker?
I mean, look, would I like to have him on the team? Sure. Number one, I don't think Arizona would want to trade him in the division. Number two, I just think he's going to obviously demand probably, I'm sure he's making pretty good money because he is a good player. But I think the Cardinals would not want to trade him within the division unless we offered them like a crazy offer. And honestly, our safeties are pretty good right now. Look, we have Hufanga, Tashawn Gibson. We know about him. And I think we're probably going to draft a safety relatively early. So, I think we're fine at safety. If I were to target someone, I'd probably target somebody else, maybe like a right tackle in a trade as opposed to a safety, which I don't think we necessarily need this year.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. YTC, and I think every 49er fan, they've been asking me, basically talking about Trey Lance trade rumors. Is it media BS or is there any truth to that? So let's get Shifty your perspective. Have you heard about all these Trey Lance rumors?
Yeah, I've been hearing them, and I can see why there's rumors out there. Obviously we know how well Brock Purdy played down like the stretch last season. You bring in Sam Darnold, who is a decent backup, I think. I do think it would be a mistake to trade Trey Lance unless we got a really good offer. And honestly, I don't think teams are going to offer anything significant because, look, Lance has been in the league for 2 years. He's had a couple of injuries. He hasn't played much. When he has played, he's looked okay. I'm still a believer in Trey Lance. I think he can have a really good career with the 49ers. There is a reason why we traded up for him. I just think that his trade value is so low right now that what my guess is what happens at quarterback is, and this kind of also relates to Brock Purdy's maybe recent comments about how he's recovering, but I think Purdy goes on the physically unable to perform list, the pup list, misses the first 6 games. You have Trey Lance start. Darnold's the backup. I think we draft a quarterback. And then after week 6, when it comes to week 7, when Purdy gets activated back from the pup list, then however Lance is playing or whatever, then we make a decision there. But
Yeah. What's up, Rudy, the Rams fan? Shout out to Rudy. I want to give him a little bit of some nice, kind words. You guys just lost a wide receiver. You traded your corner. Bobby Wagner went back to the Seahawks, and apparently your quarterback may miss some times with injury. So I want to be nice to Rudy. And someone drop in this just saying, hello, just saying, only legitimate trade is probably Ayuk. So have you been hearing these Ayuks going to the Giants, all these little speculations? What are your thoughts on all these little Brandon Ayuk is leaving?
I think it would be a huge mistake. I wouldn't want to trade Ayuk. I mean, you would have to give up a lot to the 49ers, in my opinion, to get Ayuk. I think maybe we overvalue him a little bit at times, but man, Ayuk is considering how, like, you look at last year, he had over 1,000 yards. And you had like three different quarterbacks. We were pretty much, and I think we're a very run heavy offense. And for him to still get above 1,000 yards, and also we know how good he is as a blocker, how physical he is. I think he's actually the kind of perfect wide receiver for the Shanahan offense. And to me, he's wide receiver one. I just think that they're going to try and do whatever they can to roll with Debo and Ayuk as long as possible. So I don't think he's going to get traded unless, look, if someone comes in and says, look, we'll give you a top 10 pick, top 5 pick. Yeah, I think you really have to think about that. But I don't know. I wouldn't trade it unless you got a crazy offer. I think he's too good.
Shout out to Fialua, also known as Soli684 in the building out in Hawaii, of course. Aloha, mahalo to my brother out there. Let's move on to this final time. John Jay and Shifty will talk about Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo. I just want to say to this, we call him Mr. James Garoppolo, to be, very nice to him, be a little bit more formal. But he went to the Raiders. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. And what are your memories, like Jimmy's time with the 49ers? Like, so basically, it's a two-part question. So your thoughts on Jimmy to the Raiders and what are your memories, good, bad, like everything about Jimmy Garoppolo. The final time we'll talk about Mr. James Garoppolo, be a little bit more formal to him.
I think that, look, the Raiders gave him a big contract. I don't know if I would have done that if I were the Raiders. I'm kind of a bit puzzled about the whole Derek Carr situation, like what happened there. I don't think, none of us really know. I do think Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. So the Raiders are kind of the Raiders. They're usually a complete mess, and they still are. But look, I kind of wish Jimmy the best of luck, I guess. He's going to a really tough division. So it's not going to be a cakewalk at all. But kind of, so good luck to him there, I guess, in Vegas. But kind of talking about, the second part of the question, which is like his time with the Niners, I think that Jimmy Garoppolo gets a lot of hate. I think some of it's absolutely deserved. Like some of the interceptions that he threw were like the worst interceptions I've seen by a 49ers quarterback in a long time. However, you can't deny the fact that we won a lot of games with him. Whether whether it's because of him or in spite of him, we can talk about that all day long. But I think when I think of James Garoppolo with the with the Niners, I think of like a lot of wins, and I think there's a lot of great memories to look back at. When he first got traded, like he came in his first 5 games. I think we won all 5 games to end the 2017 season. I think of 2019, of course, that great year we went to the Super Bowl. Probably should have won it. But even that season, there were so many great games that we won. You think back to like the game at New Orleans. Jimmy Garoppolo to George Kittle on 4th and 2. We win the game. And then even like 2021, there was a lot of great memories. Throughout the playoffs last year, he played pretty well. Not perfect by any means, but he played well. So look, I understand why people wanted to move on from him. He's limited in what he can do. Absolutely. There was, a lot of games, a lot of head scratching games where you're like, what the hell? But in general, I have pretty fond memories. And when you think about it, Look, when we traded for Garoppolo, I don't think we'd won a game in 2017. I think we were like 0-7 or something. You think back to the years prior to that, we had Chip Kelly, we had Jim Tom Sula. We're talking like 2.5 years of just garbage football. And then you bring in Garoppolo. He gives a bit of hope. We
Yeah.
win the last 5 games of the season in 2017. Then there's hope, and he brought that. But overall, look, I have like pretty fond memories. I kind of left with like a what if, because you think back to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. We were winning in that. We should have won that game. You think back to the NFC Championship game against the Rams, and Jaquaski Tart, if he catches the interception, if we finish out the game, maybe we win the Super Bowl, in 2021. You never know. But so there's a lot of what ifs, but overall, I think I have pretty fond memories of
Mhm.
Garoppolo.
Yeah. Agreed. Great stuff. And Mr. James Garoppolo, we're being more formal to him now because
James, yes.
Jimmy, what I've started to finally understand, because I don't like James, it's too formal, but we got to be more formal to him. He did do some stuff for us. I know the hate. Uh, it is what it is. Now we're seeing it with all these, Brock Purdy trade. I think 49er fans were just interested at the quarterback position. So I don't know why we care about so much about one position, but that's a different story. Let me read a few of these questions out the way, and then we'll start the draft. Phil Lewis says, "No way we're trading Ayuk. His salary is only $2 million, but next year the salary is going to go up to 14. I think then. I think then the Niners going to trade him not this year, maybe next year. That's something for a different video to talk about because we're doing a draft video, but that's something to think about for another video. Everyone's been talking about the quarterback UCLA DTR. Maybe it could be a smokescreen, but he met with the Niners 3 times, so that might be something to think about. Rudy says one thing about the Rams GM, he realized he made a mistake. He owned up to it, cut or move guys like Allen Robinson, Wagner, take the dead money hit this year and go in a different direction. All right, we'll see what the Rams do. My boy David McNiner, he changed his name from McNew to McNiner. If you have not heard yet, his name is McNiner. We got a new follower, Bebop Jones, in the building. Bebop Jones. Nathan Z is saying what's up to his boy. And David says, I don't hate James Richard Garrell, just don't like him. It's true. Hey, it's all right. He's off the team. He's off the team. Thank you very much, Rudy. And everyone saying what's up. All right, so this is now my third draft on this channel. I've done 2 drafts already. I did a regular drafting all the 11 players. I did one where I traded up, but I wanted to do something different on this draft. Shifty is going to pick the players that he wants for the 49ers, and he's going to explain why he at 99, 101, why you are going for that. So when you make your selection, you can explain why, and we're going to do that. So whenever you're ready, Shifty, we'll start this fun draft.
Cool. Let's kick it off, man. Let's go.
All right, so here we go. Let's start the draft. So we're using this website for those who have not heard yet. So I think PFF wants you to upgrade or pay a fee to use their draft simulator. So I decided to use this one. This is sort of a simulator I used before PFF. I really like it. They give you your real time grades and all of how you were doing. They give you suggestions on who to draft as well. But again, Shifty, I know you probably are different than me. I was very heavy on offensive line and defensive line, so you may be a little bit more different than me. So it's always good to get different perspectives on these drafts. So once we get to 99, because we got to wait to the third round before we pick. So we are now getting ready to start. So I don't know if you want to trade, but
Nah.
okay, so we'll just reject all these trades, and then we'll start off with your first pick. So let's see what Shifty wants to select, or what is the priority for the 49ers.
So John Jay, you're kind of in control of the screen here. So what I'm going to do is, if I could ask you, like the player list, if you could scroll down just a little bit for me, that would
Sure.
be awesome.
Okay, so this is basically the big board right now. Yep.
Okay, cool. So, right here, I think this is we actually got some really good players here, and you can see they have like the rankings of where they
Mhm.
are. I would probably in this case go Andre Carter the second,
Mhm.
the edge out of Army.
Okay.
I think it's yeah, we can take him for sure.
Okay.
I'd be kind of surprised if he is there at 99, but you look, the draft always crazy things can happen. To me, we're putting a lot of faith in a guy like Drake Jackson to make a huge leap next year. I think that he'll get better. I just don't know how good the Drake Jackson will be. We have a lot of just like mediocre depth. We're bringing guys like Cleveland Farrell, Austin Bryant. Like these are guys who are they're not going to wow you. I think they're solid for depth, but I think Andre Carter for sure could be a guy where maybe he becomes like a starting guy at edge. Um, Love the name too, Andre Carter. Is he related to? Because I know we drafted an Andre Carter in the first round back in like 2000 or 2001, who was also an edge player. So maybe that's his son. But really big fan of Andre Carter. I think he's someone who could just, we struggled mightily last year getting pressure off the edge outside of Bosa. So I think we really do need a legitimate guy there. And I think Carter could be that guy, opposite Bosa for the long term. Hopefully Drake Jackson works out. And then we have like two cheap options for the next 3-4 years.
Yep. 100% true. And yeah, I kind of have to agree with you. Like edge is a really, really good position because again, Bosa, he's going to be with us after they deal with the contract. And so we've been looking for that other guy on the side. And I've been hearing a lot of great things about Andre Carter II. Uh, we have Drake Jackson. We did pick up, Cleveland Farrell. I know I'm pronouncing that name incorrectly, but the player from the Raiders. So, but one of the things about the Niners, they really invest a lot in the edge because last year they had, I think, 8 edge rushers and 5 D tackles. So that's the biggest, position group that they really, really want. So I have to agree on that. Let me get some of these comments out the way. Let me say what's up to CarCast, who's in the building. What's up, man? How are you doing? Uh, I have to shout out Jim Everett the Great. Apparently, people say he's a troll, but Jim Everett the Great, you're always welcome on my channel. I have to untime him out because people keep timing him out. Just leave Jim Everett alone and let him say his funny, wonderful opinions, which are very comical. So yeah. Uh, I want to say what's up to CG Ruthless. He's in the building. And we got a Cowboys fan in the building. What's up, crazy guy? How are you doing?
Yo, crazy guy. I like crazy guy a lot. He would always come into like the streams and he checks out the content a lot. So shout out to crazy guy.
Yeah. All right. So now we have the 101 selection. So Shifty went with Andre Carter II. So again, let's look at the big board players that are available there, or we can look at different positions as well.
Let's scroll down a little bit more if you could. Cool. So with the next selection, I'm going to take you see at number 87 there, JL Skinner,
This
the
one, the safety.
safety.
Yeah,
Yep, let's do it up.
pick them up.
So I think that when it comes to the 49ers, something that like you've seen us like to do in recent years is we'll draft like a year ahead. So basically, I think when you look at like Drake Jackson, like we drafted him. I mean, we obviously wanted him to play well last year, but kind of for the future. So we like to draft a year ahead. I think this year we know that it's going to be Tashawn Gibson and it's going to be Hufanga at safety. But JL Skinner's a guy who I think could learn a lot in his rookie year from a veteran guy like Gibson. And then in 2024, he really gets unleashed. Now, of course, there's a lot of different things that we could do with our secondary that maybe to get him some reps, get him some snaps. I think in a case like this, Skinner would see a ton of time in preseason as well, which would really help him out. But I think this would be a pick really for 2024, and that's kind of going to be a trend that I think you'll see in this draft. That it's drafting for the future. Like when our first pick is at pick 99, and I think ultimately the Niners, arguably have one of the best deepest rosters. It's going to be incredible. Like you're not really going to find a guy who can just come in and start right away. So I'm happy to, basically replenish the roster, and then that allows us, let's say when Gibson retires next offseason or leaves, then we have a replacement who can just seamlessly come in. Like think back to when we drafted Hufanga, we had Jaquiski Tart on the roster. We let Tart go, and then bam, we have Hufanga comes in and has an All-Pro year. So hopefully it would be a similar situation here with a guy like Skinner. But yeah, I think it'd be a good move.
Yeah, yeah, and that is one thing that I do agree, because Ufunga's going to be here for a long time. He's earned that. What he did is first year as a full-time starter. That's our guy long term. We will, in a few years down the road, just like we have to focus on Bosa, they're going to focus on him. And Gibson is a great player, but he's going to be 33 years old next season, and don't know how many more years he's going to have with the Niners. He did take a team-friendly contract. If he has another good year, maybe may want to cash in at the age of 34. So it's always good to have good players to build, good depth around, and that's probably like a position that we do need to look at, safety. Corners for the first time in a while, I can say we don't really need corners because we signed a bunch of corners. Yes, they're not, big names like, Ramsey, but we brought in a bunch of corners. And for the first time in a while, I love this term that was told to me, not just by 49ers, big content creators who are good friends of the program, but even non-football 49er fans, is what I meant to say. Non-49er said, when you have a good edge rushers, defensive line, your secondary becomes way better than it is. So I really like that, term. So yeah, I agree with the safeties, that safety pick from Boise State. All right.
With
So
the next pick, could you do me a favor, John? And if you could just click on, tight end and offensive tackle on the
yeah,
left side, it's just to see who's available at those positions.
yeah. So let me see some. Oh, no wonder something's wrong with I kind of have to restart the website. It crashed for some reason. So yeah, I have to reopen it up. I don't know what happened. We were
Yeah, I
having.
see CG's comments about JL Skinner. I mean, I think that the Niners, we use our safeties fairly interchangeably. I actually do think that, I think that he could actually play really well in that role. And I think you're probably going to see a lot of different things too with a guy with Steve Wilkes as our defensive coordinator. He has a background in coaching up secondary players. So honestly, to me, I could see it working. But it's one of those things where we'd have to kind of see it play out.
Yeah, so I have to restart the website because apparently, yeah, it's just it froze and it crashed. So I want to apologize for. So I got to restart everything. Anyway, my bad. I'm also
No,
having
you're good, man. You're good.
I'm also having technical difficulties on my end. So
Technology, man.
yeah, it's supposed to make our lives more easier.
Yeah, seriously, but then it just ends up getting a bit more. But I think, with those two picks, um, it's funny because our defense last year was, I think, fairly easily the best defense in the NFL. But we lost a lot of guys in the offseason and free agency. So to me, this draft is going to be about replenishing the defense. Of course, I think ideally I'd like to get maybe a tight end to kind of back up George Kittle, maybe a right tackle. But considering where we're drafting, not to say that it's impossible, but I think it would be a little bit unlikely that that we would find a tackle who would immediately start above a guy like McKivitz, considering McKivitz has years in the system. And clearly the Niners like McKivitz because we did extend him, give him a 2-year deal. So, it kind of remains to be seen. But yeah, I think that the Niners, what we should do and what I'm kind of trying to do in this draft is just go the best player available. I think we're in a situation where we can do that considering we have like a good, talented team overall. Oh
Yeah.
man, if the draft were like, I would go Sidney Brown in a heartbeat now if that.
All right.
But no, I'll stick with the pick of JL Skinner just for consistency.
Let me shout out to my boy TOP. I think his name is Optimus Principus. Is in the building. What's up, man? How are you doing? Let's see. Yep, Skinner. He is very physical. All right. Let's see. Skinner reminds me of Cam Chancellor. So Cam Chancellor. Nice, nice, nice. All right. So, all right. So I restarted the draft, unfortunately, because I had to redo it. We lost your pick, your safety pick, at 101. So,
Let's go for in a case like this one, I would probably go Sidney Brown
okay.
at you'll see number 75 there.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if if Sidney Brown went after JL Skinner, but you never know what could happen in the
Yeah.
draft. So but
Yeah.
Sidney Brown would be a great fit, as would Jair Brown from Penn State as well. So I mean I think safety is a I wouldn't necessarily say a need for 2023, but we need depth, and it will be a need 2024.
Mhm. Also, while you've also been gone, I have got to know this guy. His name is David Corona. He's a 49ers fan out in the city of Corona, out in Southern California. He's a really good dude. Too bad he likes the Lakers because that's a Warrior fan. But shout out to my boy David Corona, who's in the building. All right, so now we are now at pick 102. Uh, let's show the rest of the
Cool.
big board.
So, in the case like this, if it worked out as we're seeing it right here, I'm gonna be going Blake Freeland. You'll see 90 there. Um, for the offensive tackle from BYU. Now, here's the interesting thing with Freeland is that a lot of people really weren't fans of Mike McGlinchey. And in my opinion, it's probably because he was a top 10 pick and people expected him to be like a dominant offensive tackle, which he really wasn't dominant. I think he was solid, but Blake Freeland is actually very similar to Mike McGlinchey, I think, in terms of just like how they play. I think in terms of their athletic ability. And clearly the Niners liked McGlinchey enough to take him in it as a in a top 10 pick. So getting Freeland, I think, would be a really good move here. And then Freeland would be a guy who could compete with McKivitz. I don't know necessarily if he'd beat him out, but then again, we see surprises all the time by rookies. I mean, last year we saw it with Spencer Burford. I know that's one of CG's guys, but yeah, I think this would be a really smart move. And I know that you mentioned John that you really like to build the offensive line and defensive line, so it's never a good thing to have good quality depth there. So I would take Blake Freeland here.
Yeah, like I picked them up on my first pick. And the reason why I picked them up is that Trent Williams is going to be 34 years old. This is now the third year of that 6-year contract. So basically, if in 2024 he suits up, his contract is going to explode. And then the next 3 years are going to be in the 30s. So that's how Niners restructure their contracts. They always back load them. But again, we don't know if he wants to play in 2024. Will he be here after 2025? We do not know. And of course, if Colton McKivitz, just like Burford and Banks, if they stepped up and Colton McKivitz is a really good tackle, this guy Freeland could be the possible replacement if Trent Williams says, or say if the Niners hypothetically win the Super Bowl and Trent Williams says, I'm done. I want my Super Bowl. We have someone to build. And again, a lot of people have been saying we need players to win the job. We have to understand that the Niners, as long as we have a championship ready team, the players that we are drafting are players for next year. And then the next year draft, the players will be for the following season. So I'm starting to see a pattern. So these three selections, an edge rusher, we have Drake Jackson. So you continue to add depth there. Sidney Brown or the Boise State safety. We don't know what Gibson is going to do. And then this pick is someone really, really good for possibly replacing Trent Williams or someone who could take that job from McKivitz if he's not good. All right, let me do something quickly because there's some funny comments in the chat. And again, guys, please, if you want to keep it football related, keep it football related. Please don't make it personal and please don't bring anything up. And so that's the first warning. And my mods, guess what? You have full power to deal with these trolls. Let me double check. Yep. So I'm not going to read none of these comments. So little FYI out there. Because again, I want to talk football. I'm not here to. There are other channels for that stuff. And again, let me apologize for the fans who want to listen to football and not have to deal with this stuff. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat because I'm seeing a lot of things that have nothing to do with the mock draft. All right. Besides all of that, let's go back, keep it positive. So the 49ers are now picking again. We have the 155th selection. So let's show you more of the players. We have a corner. We have a offensive line player from USC, the Stanford quarterback, the tight end from Michigan, another corner, another safety. So this is what's on the board right now.
I think in a case like this, I would probably go with the guy at the top there, Riley Moss, the cornerback out of Iowa. I like his fit for what we do here defensively. Really good size, and we clearly do like our Iowa players. But I really like the fit here, and I know you said earlier that we do have. I think we have really good starters at cornerback. When you think about like Mooney Ward, Diamador Lenore, and then we brought in Isaiah Oliver. I do like the potential of Sammy Womack, but who knows about Ambry Thomas? Who knows about some of the other cornerbacks we brought in? So I think, look, if we have, hopefully it doesn't happen, but let's say if either Mooney Ward or Lenore get hurt, then I think we're going to struggle on the outside. So having good depth there is going to be really important. And I think Riley Moss would be a good way to go. I wouldn't expect him to come in straight away, as a 5th round rookie, but I think he's someone who, again, down the road, maybe someone who could work his way into a starting role, similar to what Lenore did. But I think it's really important to have good depth there. It was think back to 2021 when we were signing guys like Josh Norman and Drake Kirkpatrick and all those garbage, cornerbacks, and we struggled a lot there. So I think getting good depth there would be, and I really like the move. I like the fit for right here in the 5th round.
Yeah, agreed. And I may be a little bit less on the cornerback market because as I mentioned, we brought in a lot of depth. Of course, I think Lenore and I think that Oliver guy that we got from the Falcons could be, those two guys, one on the slot, one on the boundary corner, of course, Charvarius Ward. But it's always good to have a corner. I don't think the Niners are going to be reaching this high, but it's always good to have these players. And I am not the biggest fan of, Big Ten football. I do like Pac-12 a little bit more biased out here, but I do watch Big 10, Big 12, SEC football. And I've been hearing a lot of great things about Riley Moss. So I will not pass up on a possible corner that possible is still there. And that's one thing that I never, ever, want to say, hey, I'm going to pass on this player, has a lot of upside because, sometimes you got to go with the best available player at that right moment. And Crazy Jew says Riley Moss, and then Melvin Watts in the building. First time on my channel. Nice to meet you, man. Thanks for tuning. He said, "Let's go Niners." Yes, let's go Niners. All right. So let's see what pick we are on now. Is 164. So
cool.
We are now at 164. Crazy Juice, really wants that tight end from Michigan. I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but let's look at the players that are on the big board. Jalen Jones is still there. Another safety from Notre Dame. Another corner. This is my favorite corner from Maryland. We got a running back, and then we got a wide receiver, another edge rusher, and a linebacker.
Look, I think we're trying to find a good, reliable backup to George Kittle. If you could do me a favor, could you click on the tight end, like what tight ends are available?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is the tight end.
Yeah. All right. I think with this one here, I like Shoemaker, but I would actually probably go with Brenton Strange. Let's go
Okay.
Brenton Strange, tight end out of Penn State. I believe the 49ers have met with him, possibly as part of our top 30 visits. I like the fit. You know, we seem to strike gold when it comes to the fifth round in recent years, and it would be awesome to see Brenton Strange, and not to say that he'll have a career like a George Kittle, but it would be awesome to bring in a guy who I think could be another weapon. When it comes down to it, you know, I think we do need a backup to Kittle. Kittle, love him as a player. He's awesome, arguably my favorite player in the team, but he misses games just because of how physical he plays. And I think that although I do think that Kittle's going to be around for a while, it'd be nice to have a really solid backup option. And I think the Shanahan's really tried to look for that. You know, you think back to bringing in Jordan Reed in 2020, drafting Charlie Werner, bringing in Tyler Kroft last year. I think we're kind of hungry for that legitimate number 2 tight end. And Strange could absolutely be that guy. And I think the Niners do like him. So that's a definite possibility.
I forgot to say what's up to King Mufasa in the chat. He's been leaving some comments, so I apologize, King Mufasa. Imagine Jimmy wins, winning a Raiders Super Bowl. Uh, I have to see it before I believe it, but thank you very much, and I want to apologize. Of course, my favorite guy is back on Niners. All damn day is in the building. Greetings, Niner gang. What is up? What is up in the building? All right. So we have already selected some great players. You know, you've been giving some really good grades so far, so you're doing a really good job. So now we're at pick 173. We still got a long way to go.
Yeah. With this, I'm actually going to double up just because I really like the fit. I'm going to double up on edge, and you see KJ Henry from Clemson.
All right.
Yeah, I'll take KJ Henry. Now, when you look at Henry, he's a guy who his sack numbers aren't the most impressive, but what I would encourage people to look at is just look at how many pressures that he had at his time at Clemson. I think what would really help him acclimate, and this is a minor point, but you know, Cleveland Farrell and Austin Bryant, who we brought in free agency, they're both guys who went to Clemson, so that would be a natural way for him to adjust to the NFL. But I really do think the fit would be solid, and you can never have enough depth at edge. To me, a big thing is outside of quarterback, I think the most important position arguably is the edge, because if you can get after opposing quarterbacks, like you said, John Jay, if you can get after opposing quarterbacks, that makes your secondary way better. That means that leads to sacks. It leads to turnovers. So I'd really be stoked to get to, for me, adding Andre Carter and KJ Henry would just be kind of like a home run there.
All right. And it's always good to have edge, and the Niners really do value the edge, because one thing that on 2017, he sat down with NBC Sports, and he was saying the first person, you know, and Tony Dungy was there, and Tony Dungy, they have conversations. He said, Tony Dungy, the reason why Tampa, and he wasn't the coach, but the reason why Tampa Bay won that Super Bowl was because of a good defensive line. So I agree with that philosophy. All right, so now we're at the 200s, 216 pick. We've picked some edge rushers. We got a tight end, a secondary player, offensive line. So let's basically look at the big board, see what player you are very interesting, or a player that you really like from the remaining big board.
Do me a favor, John Jay. If you could click on for the position, if you could click on linebacker and defensive, and just defensive line.
Okay, so we got linebacker and defensive line. Oh,
cool.
So look at it one at a time. So linebackers. So here are the linebackers.
Cool. So with this pick here, what I'm going to do might be a little bit early, but I actually going to go with Mahmoud Diabate, the linebacker out of Utah. Actually, the Niners just met with him. So he's someone clearly on the radar. And when you look at positions that for depth, of course, at linebacker, we have Fred Warner, we have Dre Greenlaw, we have Oren Burks, we brought back Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, but we did lose Azeez Al-Shire. And I think that the 49ers have done a really good job over the years drafting, but also developing linebackers. And I think, clearly he's a fit. Clearly the Niners are interested in a guy like Diabate. So I think for depth purposes, it would be a good move. Like heaven forbid, if anything happened to Warner or Greenlaw, that could be a big loss. But I think Diabate can come in, pick up the system pretty quickly. And I like the fit here with the Niners. And at the very least, I think in his rookie year, you'll probably see him make an impact on special teams.
All right. My boy David McNiner, who actually lives in the state of Utah, follows heavily the Utah football team. So basically, David has been telling me. So David, shout out to David McNiner, who reps his school out there. Says that this guy is a sleeper and could be like possibly like a Fred Warner, Greenlaw, like one of these linebackers who are basically were meant for special teams and can eventually down the road, if we got to replace somebody, could do really well. And the Niners have been really perfect on linebackers, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree with that, but look, we drafted our first linebacker, did not do very well, Foster. Then we drafted Warner for a special team position. He became a Pro Bowler. When we got Greenlaw and Aziz, those guys were brought in for special teams. They became that three-headed monster at that linebacking group. Flanagan Foles has done really, really well, this year. Now he will be part of that starting role. Could be a next guy we can develop. And we have McClary Ball. So for whatever the reason, we always do really well at the linebackers. So that was because of D'Amico. D'Amico, it was an exceptional coach. That's going to hurt us a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I'm not saying that the Panthers coach, who's now our defensive, always forget his name. I'm not saying he's bad, but D'Amico did a really good job. So I think he would have been very, psyched to coach this kid. But we got about 4 more picks, so let's try to end this draft very quickly. We're at number 222.
Cool. If you could just click on all so I can see all the positions available. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Let's go with you got some really good options here, actually. Yeah. I'm actually going to go, if you see Ronnie Hickman, the safety from Ohio State.
Yep. And
so this is.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that's a pick. Look, we have Hufanga, we have Gibson, we drafted Sidney Brown or JL Skinner, whichever you want to say, earlier. We have George Odom, but I think that Ronnie Hickman at that point to me was just best player available. So I'm not going to, just because we have pretty decent depth there, I'm not going to turn him away. I think that the quality player is there. Love the fit with the 49ers. I don't know if the Niners have met with them yet, but I think that just at that point, it would be silly to possibly turn away a potential future starter or even special teams ace just because we have pretty decent depth. And all it takes is one injury, and then safety could be a major question mark. So, and if any team knows about injuries, it's the 49ers. So we need to have quality depth. And I think that would be a key. Remember, it's 17 game season plus 3-4 playoff games. So got to have good depth. And I just like the value there at that point.
Yeah. So shout out to TOP as a question. We'll give you the number 9 pick as Shout out to TOP. He's a good dude. He's not like that. Those troll Bear fans who come in here and make fun of Trey Lance. The picture of his hairline. I'm not going to discuss that because that's just a different thing. But I'm going to say a hard no. So no, thank you. No, thank you.
Way.
We don't need that. David McNiner is in the chat. All right. So, okay. So we are almost done. We got about 3 more selections: the 247, 253, and 255.
Let's go with Clayton Tune, the quarterback out of Houston. All right. Played a lot of football at Houston. I think that what I was saying earlier was that I believe Brock Purdy's going to be put on the PUP list, which means he'll miss the first 6 games. So with that being said, we need a third quarterback for the first 6 games. So you're going to have Trey Lance, you're going to have Sam Darnold, and then you have a guy like Clayton Tune, who it would be unfair to say that he could have a similar impact like Brock Purdy did last year. But I think it would be a wise move for the future. Also, it gives us flexibility then, should we want to trade Trey Lance or whoever, to have a good young quarterback there, I think would be a really good move.
All right. So we got two more picks left. Usually these selections are basically just camp bodies, just trying to fill up the roster spot.
So
So
I got a guy. We're going to go
yeah,
Ronnie Bell, wide
okay.
receiver out of Michigan, right there. Niners, and actually a lot of teams have met with him. I really don't think that wide receiver is a need. Look, we have Debo, we have Ayuk. We know that Jawan Jennings is back. We have Ray, Danny Gray. We just signed Chris Conley. But Ronnie Bell, amazing fit for what we do. Again, all it takes is one injury. We know Debo plays really physical. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we need wide receivers. We don't know anything. I mean, with Danny Gray, I love the speed, but we don't really know much about Danny Gray. We can't pencil him in to be we can't pencil him to be a potential starter yet. Well, potential starter, but we don't know anything about him. I don't even know if he caught a ball in his rookie year. So a lot of question marks around him. Ray, I think, is a solid return guy, solid kind of gadget piece, but I think for depth purposes at this point, you're kind of going for best player available and just pure depth.
Mhm.
And look, although I would never trade Ayuk unless there was a crazy good deal, having some wide receiver depth, if the Niners do want to go that route, if you can get like a surprise guy in the 7th round. Remember, Jawan Jennings was a 7th round pick too. We also picked Richie James Jr. a number of years ago in the 7th round. So the Niners have been able to identify some solid receivers late in the draft. And I think Ronnie Bell will be another one.
All right, and we'll finish it off with the final pick for the Niners is 255. Stetson Bennett is there. Everyone's saying, "Oh, we got to get Stetson Bennett," but we drafted the Houston quarterback, so we don't need a corner in our mock draft.
If you could actually see who is available on the defensive line, DL, and then also kicker, actually.
So so this is the defensive line right
Mm-hmm.
here. All right.
Yeah. And then the kicker position.
Yep. And if we don't draft a kicker, Mister Brian Cope will be very upset at John Jay.
We are gonna take a kicker, Chad Ryland,
And
kicker out of Maryland. Yeah. Perfect way to end off the draft. Chad Ryland to me is actually probably kicker number 1 in the draft over Jake Moody. Love his consistency. We did trade for Zane Gonzalez. Zane Gonzalez is far from a perfect kicker. I think you got to have some competition there. Whoever wins out, may the best man win. To me, I'm still kind of bummed out that we weren't able to bring back Robbie Gould. I know Robbie Gould definitely didn't have the biggest leg, but he was very reliable, especially in the playoffs. So, but I think in a case like this, get some good competition at kicker. And yeah, may the best kicker win.
yeah, 100% true. So let's examine. So far, you made some really good, selections. They gave you an A for Andre Carter II. They gave you A plus, even though that was not your original pick, but you got an A plus for the safety. They gave you an A plus for Blake Freeland, A plus for Riley Moss, a standard A for Benton Strange. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And then KJ Henry from Clemson, they gave you a B plus, a B for the linebacker from Utah, a B for the safety from Ohio State, a B plus for the quarterback, and you finished off with an A grade. So after looking at your selections, how did you think that you did? And are you happy with this mock draft?
Look, yeah, if it turned out this way, I'd be thrilled. I'm not just saying that because these are the guys that I picked, but I think that in a case like this, it's getting players who I think could have maybe somewhat of an impact in terms of depth pieces in 2023. But a number of guys I see here could be key contributors, 2024, 2025. And if there's one thing that I want to say with the Niners is that what I think we're trying to do here is we're not going to do like what the Rams did, which is they went all in on like 1 or 2 years. And credit to the Rams, look, they won a Super Bowl. So you could say, look, it worked out for them. But I'd rather have a team that's consistently year in, year out competing for Super Bowls. And I think with this draft, it sets us up for the future. We got some key depth at key positions. So I'd be stoked if this happened, but I think we'd really have to see what everyone in the chat or what you think, John Jay. Of course, I want to hear your thoughts too.
Yeah, so just looking at the draft, uh, basically, edge rusher, is a position. Because again, I'm not saying Drake Jackson is awful. Uh, he was only there like on 15% of the snaps and did really well. Like he basically, you look at his stat line, did much more than a 15%, starter and 15% of the snaps. Of course, we do need a safety because Gibson, he's not getting any younger, and having a tackle Blake Freeland, who was my top selection. There was also another player, a guard who can play interior offensive line from Penn State, because we always have to look at what we have there. And again, I'm not saying Jake Brendel is horrendous, but at the end of the year, he started to really, really step up his game. Cornerback, I would have waited a little bit more later. Tight end, of course, I do agree. I really like the tight end from what's that school, Miami, but I do think tight end and always having good depth, like an extra linebacker, extra safety. Again, quarterback is going to be the big question. Will Kyle bring in a practice squad quarterback? And of course, we do have to look at kickers because Zane Gonzalez. What I know about him, he was hurt last year. He's an 84% kicker. And if I give a very, very tough, criticism on Robbie Gould, 84% of your kicks, making your kicks 84% of the time, that's not good for a kicker. You want your kicker to be at least 90% and higher. So it's always good to have a kicker. So I agree, in my opinion. I don't know how the panel feels about the picks. So let me show the chat and show them the players. So what do you guys think of this draft? Shifty went Andre Carter, Sidney Brown, Blake Freeland, Riley Moss, Benton Strange, KJ Henry. I cannot pronounce that name, and I'm not going to even try. The Utah linebacker, Rodney Hickman, Clay Toon, the quarterback, Ronnie Brown, the wide receiver, and of course, I know Mr. Brian Cope is very excited that we drafted the kicker. So, what are your thoughts about Shifty's draft? And let's go. Crazy Juice says A overall. So, Crazy Juice liked the draft. Brian says, good job. Love the kicker. So, again, he loves the kickers. Loves the kickers. Should try to get Boogie Knight wide receiver. All right. Don't know too much about him. Fia Lua said 99 Brandon Joseph, safety. Luke Y. I think that says center. Tyler Steen, tackle. Alabama, 155. I think that says Gardner, LSU. Jackson Kirkland, tackle. Nick Brokers, a guard. And of course, Max Duggan, who I think is the only quarterback that makes good sense for the 49ers, ran a West Coast offense. And then Josh White. All right. So that's Fia Lewis, his mock
Heavy
draft.
offensive line, yeah.
So pretty good. All right. Anyway, great draft. Shifty, of course, I know it's been here. It's been a while you've been on here. But of course, just like we always do, let the fans know where they can find you. We have new fans now. So there are a lot of new fans that should check out Shifty. For all the new followers of my channel, this is Shifty 49ers Talk. He has a YouTube channel. He does more than 49ers. He does the games as well. So if you guys are unable to get the games in your location, because a lot of you guys are out in the East Coast and you want to watch the 49ers game, Shifty does it. You can watch it. You don't need the YouTube, sports package. Check out Shifty. Let me give you your minute.
Cool. Yeah, thank you so much. And John Jay, it's, I know it's been a while, but just great to be back on. Great to talk football again with you, man. And yeah, if you want to find me, just Shiftys 49ers talk. You know, I've had a quite a big life change, moving 5,000 miles, new jobs, all that. So I haven't been posting as much as I normally would or would like to. But do check out the YouTube channel. It's just Shiftys 49ers talk. Yeah, once I'm kind of settled into where I am now. So once we get into like training camp, things like that, preseason, of course, the content is going to ramp up. And as John Jay said, I love doing the live games. They're always a lot of fun. Always get a really good turnout. And it's just, yeah, a really good time interacting with all you guys. So definitely check it out. But if it just so happens that anyone here is not subscribed to the guy over here, then you're doing yourself a disservice, because you got to subscribe to John
I
Jay.
knew
I'm taking your word, John. You're doing yourself a
you
disservice if you're not subscribed to John Jay, because man, he's
and,
one of my favorite guys.
and vice versa.
You know,
You're vice versa. Discuss that later.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, man, it's great to be back on, and definitely have to do some more shows coming up soon. Um, I don't know. I don't think I'll be live streaming the draft at all, but if you are, I'll definitely be checking it out. The one thing is, over here, the time zone, it's like the
Yeah.
draft is going to be on at like 3 in the morning.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, if you're doing it, I'll definitely stop by, say what's up. And yeah, there we go. Great to be back.
Yep. Well, with that said, everyone, I really appreciate you, Shifty. Thanks again for hopping on, man. I know you, like you said, you had a new change in life. Things happen. You never know. Maybe one day I may have to move. And I will have to take a month off to settle down and do shows again. But it happens in life. But with that said, everybody, I'm John Jay from the 49ers Ultimate Report. Shifty, thanks for tuning in, and everybody else, go Niners.